And now, Sarah, I've started to record, so turn the time over to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Happy Saturday to you. I am so glad to see all of you here. It is always a pleasure. There's a lot of familiar faces here, so I'm always appreciative of that. And welcome to anybody else who has never taken a class with me before. My name is Sarah. I am a designer with Beadalon, and I am here representing Beadalon for our Michael's class today. And we are going to be putting together a really fun, easy to do bracelet. And I'm going to show you a really cool tool, the tying station. It's a Beadalon product that you can grab over at Michael's, and you can get all of the materials you need to recreate today's project over at Michael's, of course, or on the Michael's website. So this is considered instant gratification jewelry for a couple of reasons. We're going to be putting together a single style or a single wrap style bracelet. I know you guys have seen these where you can make several wraps with these. We're just going to do a singular wrap, and it's considered instant gratification jewelry because it works up pretty quickly. The steps are minimal, but more than anything, the materials are minimal. You're not going to need much in the way of tools, and you don't need any extra findings. The only kind of hardware that we're going to be using is a button. So you're going to need a button, and fortunately for us, Michael's has a huge selection of buttons, so you're not going to have any problems at all finding a button that you really love for this project. So you're just going to need a few things. We're going to get down to the mat, and I'm going to show you all of those things, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to put together this bracelet. These are great for summertime because they're lightweight. I love leather jewelry in the summertime because I get really hot and I don't like to wear a lot of like heavy pieces. So these are great. They are definitely boho, kind of beachy in feel, and you can mix up all the beads and change them up for your personality. So, all right, I'm going to turn you guys around and we're going to talk about the tying station and the other materials that you're going to need for today's class. All right. Uh-oh, hold on. Gotta unplug us here. I got more of a shot of my background than I intended, but that's all right. All good. Okay, so what we're going to need for today's project is the tying station, which I mentioned at the beginning. Let me move this stuff out of the way and show you the tying station. So unfortunately, the tying station is a little bit larger than our work surface here, so we can't see all of it at once, but I am going to show it to you in sections. So basically the tying station is kind of the grown-up version of a clipboard, or when we used to do like macrame projects when we were a kid back in summer camp, then you would safety pin your work to maybe your knee or maybe a pillow if you were sitting on the couch to do it. This is kind of like the grown-up version of that because you don't have to use a clipboard or anything. You've got a washer and a wing nut here where you can attach your project at the top, which we're going to do here in just a second. You have a ruler running down the side so that you can measure your work as you're going. And then of course you have the same down here on the bottom, and this one is adjustable so that if you have a shorter piece or a longer piece, you can adjust to go with the length of your project. So if you needed to make something really short, you could slide this bottom piece all the way up. Well, we've used the tying station in projects before, but there was one thing that I feel like I have left out several times when it comes to talking about the tying station. I wanted to be sure that I hit on it today. We're not going to be using it for our project, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows that it is included with your tying station and what it is, because I do get asked about this. So when you buy a tying station, you get this part, but then there's also this little guy stuck in the box. And a lot of times people don't know what this is for. So this is, if you were going to be making, just for an example, if we were going to be making our bracelet today and we wanted to do several wraps instead of a singular wrap, then our project is going to be longer than the tying station is. So you would take your acrylic plate on this end off, and you could adjust your work. So let me show you what I mean. So if you had worked a long section and now you needed to work on this section, right, that's longer than your tying station, you would lay your work up here across the acrylic section and use this squishy side to go over the top of your work and tighten down your washer and your wing nut, that's going to protect your work. So you're not going to scratch up your beads. You're not going to mark up any metals that you may have in your project. So that's what this little guy is for. He is just a handy little security measure, if you will, to make sure that you're not marking up your work if it needs to be a little bit longer and you still need to secure it maybe in the middle. So that's what this guy is for. I know a lot of people ask, and I always forget to include this, but it does come with your tying station. We're not going to be using it today, but now you know what it's for, just in case you were curious. Okay, so the tying station is a given. That's what our main tool is going to be. So we don't really need any other major tools other than maybe a cutter, a pair of scissors. You're going to need some Hypo cement. So I consider these part of the tools, of course. And you're also going to need a piece of leather cord. And I'm a fan of the cords, the leather cord that comes on the card where there's 3 different colors. I find that I use, like, there's enough of these to use for several projects. So I'm at the end of my mahogany color that was down here at the bottom. And you can see I have some black and some of the brown that is left over. I've done several projects and I still have plenty of this left over. So this is a really good buy at Michael's as far as a leather cord. It's cool to have more than one color to choose from, and you can use any of those for today's project. So you're going to need to take a section of that. You're going to need about 18 inches. Mine's a little bit longer than 18 inches, but this is going to be the outside of our bracelet. So it's really going to create the structure for our bracelet running on either side. And you can see all the hardware is just going to be a simple loop, and we're going to use a button. I'm using a shank style button. That's super important as well. So pick out a button that has a loop on the back, that shank. That's really important so that we can slide our leather through that. A lot of times a 2 or a 4 hole button just isn't quite big enough. The holes on it aren't quite big enough for your leather. So that's why I prefer to use the shank style button. As far as beads are concerned, you're going to need some, I'm using some Jasper just because it is very beautiful. This one is a Silverite version, so it has that kind of faceted flash to it, which is really pretty. And I'm using some Toho seed beads. I'm using some size 6 seed beads, and you can see in our design, there's 3 here on either end, and then we have a seed bead section here in the middle. Okay, so those are the beads. But fortunately for us, Michael's has a huge selection of beads, so you are going to be able to pick and choose whichever beads speak to you for your project. So it doesn't have to look exactly like mine. All right, last but not least is our silk cord. Now, this one is one of the things that stumps some people when they see the materials list for this project, because you normally would buy your silk cord with the needles on the end for hand knotting, right? But we're going to use it a little bit differently today, and we need a silk cord that has those needles on the end. So Tina asks, could you use a size 8 seed bead? You absolutely can use a size 8 seed bead. You can use whichever size of the seed beads you want to. I just kind of like the big ones, the chunky monkey size 6s, but you use whatever you've got or whichever ones you have picked out to go with your project. It may just take more or less, right, to fill up the space in an equal amount to your larger beads. So just keep that in mind. All right, so silk cord, I'm using number 4, and you need 2 of these because we're going to tie them together. Make sure that you take them all the way off the card. Let's go ahead and do that. So you just want to unravel them from the card. You can give them a little stretch if you want to, but I have found that it doesn't particularly need it. You do have the little bends where it's been wrapped around the cord, but once you start pulling these cords through your beads, you never notice any of the little wrinkles in your cord. Okay, so what we want to do to get started is we want to take 2 of these silk cords. Okay, so you need 2 of these, and we're going to find.
Really quickly,
yes,
we're having a few questions on this. Could you use something else besides silk cord for this project?
you absolutely can use something other than the silk cord. The reason that I picked the silk cord, number 1, is because it's beautiful. And number 2, because it has a needle on either end, not on either end, I'm sorry, on one end. So one end is open, but the other end is going to have a pre-attached tiny little needle. I don't know if you can even see this, guys. Very, very thin needle. So the needle is going to be what is going to help us to get our cords through our beads. We're actually going to be stringing our cord through the beads twice. And so that's why a needle is really, really handy for this. If you don't want to use silk cord and you want to use some sort of nylon cord or something similar to that, I would recommend either putting a needle on yourself, right? You can use like a collapsible eye needle, or you can harden up the end of your nylon with clear fingernail polish, super glue, things like that, or just put a little Scotch tape on the end, and that will help. But you've got to go through the beads in both directions. So the needle is definitely handy to have. And you'll see why once we get started. I also saw the question about how long the silk cord is. So the silk cord is 6.5 feet of silk cord. You're going to have way more than you need. Okay. But it's important that we don't cut it short, because we don't really know for sure how much we're going to need depending on what size bracelet you want. So don't cut it short. Leave it like it is. It's a lot of cord to deal with, but I promise in the end, it will be worth it. And you'll have leftover cord that still has a needle attached to it for another project. All right, so we're going to take our 2 silk cords, the ends that do not have a needle on them, okay? And we are going to just tie these 2 together. So give yourself a couple inches here and then tie them together. I'm going to do just a surgeon's knot. So I'm making a loop and I'm going to loop through twice. That's just going to give me a nice big chunky knot. It almost looks like a barrel knot, okay? So there's my knot on the end. I do have some little strings here that we will cut off eventually. We'll also add some hypo cement to this knot, but not yet, okay? We don't want to do that just yet. We're going to wait until we get a little further on. So now that you've tied your 2 ends together, sit this to the side and we're going to set up the leather with the tying station. So we are going to go ahead and take your acrylic plate and everything off here on the top. And you want to take your piece of leather. Remember, I said about 18 inches is what you're going to need for this, unless you're going to make a multi-wrap bracelet. We're just doing the single. Fold your leather in half. And you want to just tie an overhanded knot to create a loop. Make sure that the loop that you create is going to be big enough to accommodate whatever size your button is. So you want to be sure that your button is going to slide through that loop. Okay. So before you cinch down that knot, just double check to make sure that your button will fit. Okay. Pull that down nice and tight. And then we're just going to take that loop and we are going to hook it over the screw that is here on the tying station. And then we're going to replace the acrylic plate, the washer, and the wing nut to tighten this down so it's nice and secure. We don't have to worry about it coming undone. And then we're going to come down to the other end. And it looks like my leather might be a little short. I think I cut my piece too short. So let me grab another piece. I don't want to end up with a disaster here. So fortunately for us though, right, we have all of the extra leather on our card. So that's not a problem at all. Let me grab a little bit more. You just want to be sure that you have plenty because you are going to have to tie 2 different knots at the bottom. And so it's better to have more of this than what you think you might need. I have just taken my tying station completely apart. All right. So just same thing. Okay. We're going to find the middle, tie an overhanded knot to create a loop. Make sure your loop will accommodate your button. Okay. Tighten down. Attach that to the top of the tying station and replace your washer and your wing nut and tighten all of that down. Whoops. All right. Don't forget, by the way, to add your washer. Don't ever screw your wing nut. Goodness, mine doesn't want to go on at all. Don't screw your wing nut down without that washer in place, because if you tighten it down too much, it will crack the acrylic. So it's definitely there for a reason. Don't want to lose that little guy. All right, so it's attached here at the top. We're going to come down here to the bottom and we are going to do the same thing. However, I'm not going to take the acrylic plate off down here. I'm just going to loosen it up enough so that I can kind of raise that plate up. And you can see there's some room in there, and I'm going to slide one end up against the screw on this side and then one end on the other side. Pull that nice and tight and then screw it down. So you don't have to take the plate all the way off to attach your end. Okay, so now this is attached and it's ready to go. We need to attach our silk cord to this. Okay, so now that we have tied our knot onto our silk cord, I'm going to lower you down just a little bit if I can. Hold on. Make some adjustments. There we go. Okay, I'm going to tie this, or I'm not going to tie it just yet. I am going to attach it though to our leather. So what I'm going to do is I want to find that knot in the end. Okay, and I want to lay that over the top of our two ends, or our two core pieces of leather. Okay, and I just kind of want to hold it there. It's going to try to wiggle away on you, but it's okay. We'll be able to make it stay in place in just a second. So slightly open up your two leather cords. Take the right hand of your leather cord and you want to go up from the bottom, right? So just watch this movement because we're going to do it several times. So you're not going to miss it, but we're going to the outside of the cord, the right-handed cord, and we're coming up through the center between the two cords. And then we're going to pull. Okay, kind of think of it as like the butterfly stroke if you like to swim, because that's kind of what it reminds me of. Or like folding, if you do baking and you need to fold in an ingredient, that's kind of what this is like as well. Now we're going to take the left-handed side. We're going outside of the left-handed cord, or the leather cord, and we're coming around and up through the center between the two. Okay, and then pull all the slack out. You're working with a lot of cord here as far as the silk cord is concerned. Don't get frustrated with it. It's a lot, I know, but it's worth it in the end to have not cut it short. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to slide all of this up right next to that knot that we created in the leather. Okay, and make sure that your original knot is up here on the top. This will actually be the back of the bracelet, so you'll never even see any of these knots that we create in the end. Okay, they'll go to the back. All right, now we want to take our two pieces, our right and our left of our silk cord, and we want to tie an overhanded knot with the two of those. Okay, so just a simple overhanded knot is all you need. And before you pull that knot down nice and tight, make sure that your original knot is still up here on the top. Okay, so tie that into place. And I'm going to do one more overhanded knot. Just be mindful of that needle on the end. Okay, and pull that down. Now you have secured your silk cord to your leather and it's not going to come off. We'll add some glue to these at the end, but for now, just kind of leave it just like it is. Okay. All right, now we're ready to get started with our beads. So what we want to do is separate out our cords again and tighten up our leather because it does kind of want to come undone on you or get a little slack in it. We're going to take our seed beads, okay? And let me show you with our sample here. So the sample starts out with 3 seed beads. So first 1, and then we'll do a row of 2. So go ahead and dump out your seed beads. Doesn't take a lot of these here in the beginning. We will use more later, but all right. So pick a side, either side, doesn't make any difference. I'm going to start on my right-handed side. I'm coming all the way down to the end of the silk cord and I have found the needle. Okay. I'm going to take one of my size 6 seed beads and thread that on to my needle. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I forgot one step. The most important step. The most important step. Don't forget to do this part. So we want to do that kind of folding with our cord again. Okay. I forgot we need to do that after our knot. So take your right-handed cord. Okay. Same step. It's going to be the same every time. Take that right-handed cord, go underneath the outer right-handed piece of leather, come up through the middle. Okay, pull out the slack, whoops, and take it out to the side. Leather keeps coming undone here. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing with the left. So outer of left cord, underneath and up through the center. Every time we add a bead, we want to do this step. So don't forget, because if you forget this step, like I almost did, your beads won't stay. Very, very important. Okay, now we're ready to go back to that seed bead. Okay, push all of that up there nice and tight up to the top. Take your right-handed cord, find that needle, okay, and take your single seed bead, thread that onto your needle. And I'm just going to kind of hold it. Now I'm going to come to the left-handed cord and find the needle on it. Okay. And I'm going to take that needle and I'm going to go through the exact same bead in the opposite direction. Okay. So I've got cords crossing through the inside of this bead. And at the moment, it's just the needles, but it will be the cords when we start to pull out all of the slack. Okay. So now just pull all the length of that silk cord on both sides. Okay. And then when you pull down, it's going to put that bead right in the spot where it belongs. Okay. So now we want to do that little folding motion with our silk cord again. So we're going to do the right-handed side. And we're going to go around the outer right-handed cord, leather cord, up through the center and out, pulling out all that slack. And the same thing with the left. So we're going around the outside edge and up through the center. Okay. And pull your cord up. And now we're ready to add some seed beads. So this time I'm going to take 2 of those size 6 seed beads and add those to my needle on one side. Okay. I'm just going to hold them right here. I'm going to get the needle on the left-handed side. And I'm going to take that needle through those 2 beads going in the opposite direction. So our needles are crossing inside the beads. And then pull out the slack. And as you pull out the slack, bring your beads down and they'll fit right in between our 2 leather cords. And they should sit right down inside. So you just give it a little tug and they'll go right into place where they belong. Okay, so there's our 2 little seed beads. We've opened up our little triangle of our leather here in order to accommodate our bigger beads. That was the purpose of the seed beads. You can skip the seed beads if you want to and go straight to your larger size beads. However, you're going to have an open space here that's just empty. And I like to use, the smaller beads to give it a little extra decorative area, but you're still going to be in the same space, in other words. So if you leave out the seed beads, you're still going to add a bead here, but this will be open. So I just like to fill it in with some extra beading. Why not, right? You can never have too many beads. Okay, so we're ready to add our larger beads to this. So I'm going to cut them off of the strand. And we are going to treat these the exact same way that we treated our seed beads. So first things first is right-handed cord goes to the outer edge and then up through the center. So we go around that outer or the right-handed leather piece. Okay. Same thing with the left. We're outside edge and up through the center. Pull out all the slack. Okay. Now pick a side. I always work on the right. Find your needle. Take one of your beads, thread it on, and then you want the needle from the other end. Now you can kind of see why the needles on the end of the silk cord are so important. It's very helpful to have a needle. If you don't have a needle and you're going to use like Beadalon for this, you definitely want to stiffen up the end, and that'll make it a lot easier because you're crisscrossing those inside there, and a lot of times that'll make your cord fray. So the needle is really, really important. All right, so we're going to pull out all of the slack. Okay, and once we pull out all of the slack, that bead will just pop right into place when you pull it down. Okay, so we've got one of our little Jasper beads. We're going to do 4 more so that we've got a little section of 5. But before we do that, we're going to fold our cord, right? And I say that it's not really a fold. You have to think about like folding in an ingredient. So outside of the right cord up through the center, left out to the left edge, underneath and up through the center. Okay. Find your needle. Thread on a new bead. Find the needle on the other end, which always just takes a minute because our cord is very, very long. Go back through that bead in the opposite direction. Okay, so your cords, well, your needles at first are what's crossing within your bead. Annette says, would you suggest beeswax on the silk? You can, if you want to. It does give it a little bit of a little bit stronger structure, but I don't find that it's necessary. But you can, you absolutely can. And if you're going to use something that is very, very fine, you probably would want to add some to it. No reason why you can't. It definitely gives it a little stickier texture, so it does make it a little less slippery to work with. Okay, so now I'm going to take my right-handed cord again around that right-handed leather and up through the center. Okay, same with the left. So outside, around, and up through the center. Okay, now we're ready to add another bead. Okay, threading on a bead. I'm going to get the needle from the left-handed side. Cross your needles inside the bead and pull out all the slack. And we're just going to repeat this process over and over again until we have added all of the beads that we want to our bracelet. Now, I have a section of seed beads in the middle of this. So I'm going to add a total of 5 of these Jasper beads and then do a section of seed beads for the center. However, if you wanted to alternate and do a Jasper bead and then a row of seed beads, you absolutely could do it that way. So you don't have to do it exactly the way that I'm doing it. More importantly than anything is just the technique. I want you to be sure that you get the technique down because it's that around and up movement that is what holds your bead in place. Now, as far as, you know, how you add your beads and what pattern you use, that part is completely up to you. All right, so we're adding our 4th bead to one side and the needle on the left. Okay, I'm going to cross through. So my cords are going in opposite directions through the bead. And then pull out all of the slack. Okay. And lower you guys down a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to add 1 more of our Jasper beads and then we'll start our seed beads. So right-handed cord, we're going to go around the outside, up through the middle. Okay, left-handed cord, same thing, around the outside and up through the middle. making a mess out of my cord here. It can be frustrating when you're using so much length of cord, but I managed to tie a knot in mine as I was looping through. Okay, there we go. Now I've got it. All right, so get this left-handed cord ready to go. We'll add another one of our beads. And as you're going, you can kind of position with your fingers, you know, where you want those beads and how you want that silk cord to lay. So I like mine to come at an angle, but if you want it to be more straight out from the beads, you definitely can manipulate it with your fingers. And as you go, tighten it so that it'll stay in place. I do kind of like that, that kind of chevron look of it. But if you want it to go straight out to the sides, just give it a little extra attention. All right, so one more of these guys, and then we are going to add our seed beads. So get my left-handed needle, just pulling out all that slack. Whoops, and I keep hitting the iPad. My apologies, not trying to make you seasick here. Okay, so taking the left hand, going through the opposite side, going in the opposite direction, pull out all that slack. Do a little on one side and a little on the other, and then pull it right down into the spot where you want it. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our large beads. And now we're ready to add some more of our seed beads. So I'm going to dump these out, and we're just going to treat these the same way that we would our larger beads. However, we're going to use 3 of the seed beads to keep that evenness of our leather, right? So our leather is not going to shrink in, it's not going to expand out, it's going to be nice and uniform all the way through. So 3 of these size 6 seed beads will pretty much be the same measurement as our Jasper beads that we're using here. Okay, so we're just going to do the exact same thing. Take your cords, don't forget the important step, which is that kind of out and up through on both sides. Pull out all that slack. Oops. Okay. Now we're ready to add some seeds to this. So 1 needle, and we're going to add 3 seed beads. Okay. I'm going to hold those in place just because they're little and they like to get away from me. So I'm going to hold those guys in place while I grab the left-handed needle. And I'm going to go through those seed beads in the opposite direction. Okay. And then pull. I caught my bracelet in with that. Okay, pulling out all of the slack. And when you pull down, they'll pop right into place. Okay. Around the outside edge and up through. Around the outside edge and up through. Now you'll notice the seed beads are going to kind of want to travel within the leather until you get a good amount of them kind of so that they can use each other to stack themselves into place. So if your first few rows of your seed beads that you've added kind of want to wiggle around on you, that's okay. They will eventually stand up when they have the others to kind of rest up against. Okay, so don't worry about it too much. Just make sure that they stay in the center. All right, so there's 3. I get my needle on the other end. Go through those beads in the opposite direction with my left-handed needle. Whoops. Make sure you get all 3. Don't skip over one. Okay, and pull. Just pulled that needle right out. Okay, Pull out all of your slack. So when we are finished, our bracelet should end up being about a 7.5-inch bracelet. If you need to make adjustments on the size of your bracelet, there are a couple of different places where you can make those adjustments. So if you want to make your adjustment on the ends, which I probably should have showed you in the beginning, I wanted to and completely forgot about it. Where we tied a loop here, you'd actually tie 2 loops. So do a loop, tie a knot, come down a little bit and tie another knot. That's going to give you 2 loops. That's going to make your bracelet adjustable in 2 different places, which is always a good idea, particularly if you're going to be selling your jewelry and you don't know exactly what size wrist your customers are going to have. Giving it the option to be adjustable is a fantastic addition to this bracelet. However, if that's not the case and you know what size bracelet you want to make, I would just add more beads to this. And I would either add perhaps a extra Jasper bead on either end. That may make it a little bit too big though, depending on what size. So my recommendation would be playing around with the seed beads in the center, just because they are a little bit smaller, obviously, than, you know, than our great big beads that we're using here. So you can make adjustments on your size in smaller increments than adjusting with 2 great big beads, right? So just kind of play around with your little seed bead section here in the center. If you need a longer bracelet, maybe add an extra row or 2 of your seed beads, and that'll help to add some length. Okay, so there's that. Let's look at our sample here and see how many rows of the seed beads I did. So I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I did 11 rows. So if you wanted to make a larger bracelet, maybe do 13 rows instead. I always try to keep it even, but that's just me. You don't have to make it, or not even, odd. If you need a smaller bracelet, you definitely are going to kind of work in the opposite direction. So it's going to kind of depend on if you need to make a big adjustment. If you want to make a big adjustment, I would remove one of the gemstone beads from either end. Or if you want to make smaller adjustments because you're not quite sure, then I would stick to the seed beads to make my addition, or to make my subtractions rather. And I would just add less rows. So instead of 11 rows of the seed beads, maybe go with 9 rows or something like that. Okay, so there's 3 of our seed beads. Get our needle for the other side here on our left. And pull. Pulling out the slack is really kind of the longest process of this entire piece. Okay. And now you can see when I pull them, the seed beads really want to, you know, they want to stay where they're supposed to be now. After you get 3 or 4 rows in there, they stop trying to get away from you. So, all right, around and out with the right, around and out with the left. I think Ceylon would definitely work for this. Ceylon, Eslon, any of those nylon cords are going to work. You just want to try to put a needle on the end or stiffen up the end. But yes, you absolutely can use something different than the silk cord if you want to. Okay, so there's 3 on one side. Let those slide down a little bit. And let's grab our needle on the left. Take it through those beads in the opposite direction. And I just did a plain section of this beautiful cream color in the middle, but you could put in a pattern here if you wanted to. You could take a, you know, take your seed beads and create a little pattern. I've only got 3 seed beads across, but if you wanted to like alternate your colors, you could, or you could make little triangle patterns if you wanted to. So my center section is just plain, but you can get very creative with this. Okay. There's 3 on my right-handed cord. Take my left-handed cord through them in the opposite direction. And pull. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need to do 5 more sections of our seed beads. So we're going to go around and out. Don't forget that step. That's the most important step. Around and out. If you leave out the around and out section and you add your beads, they will not stay in the center. They're going to want to try to fall down and kind of droop on you. So you'll know right away when you pull them down that you've missed that step. Okay, you won't have to question whether or not you did it or you didn't. So Shauna asked what kind of beading needle I'm using. I'm using the needle that is pre-attached to the end of my silk cord. So when you buy the silk cord, it already has that little needle that's attached to it. It's a very, very tiny, very fine needle that's on the end. Okay, so 3 seed beads on the right. Taking my needle on the left through in the opposite direction and pull. Oops. Okay. When you pull out the slack, they just pop right into place where they belong. Okay. Around and out through the center, around and out through the center. I'm less graceful on the left side than I am on the right. I feel like my right side always looks pretty good. On the left side, it looks like a hot mess. Oh, there we go. Okay. Okay, there's our needle again. So there was a question I saw that went by about cleaning the white cord. So unfortunately, when you use like the white silk cord, if it starts to get dirty on you, which inevitably it's going to because it's white. I mean, that's just the way that it is. Because it's attached to leather, you really just don't have much options when it comes to cleaning it. You can try to spot clean it if you want to. You just can't really use any chemicals on it because it is that silk. So you need to kind of be mindful of what you're going to clean it with. You definitely don't want to spot clean it with any kind of, harsh chemicals. But really and truly, it's just, it's going to get the oils from your skin. It's going to eventually kind of get dingy. You know how white does, especially like in your laundry. It just has a tendency to get dingy on you. The same is true with the silk cord. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it is when it comes to white. However, the silk cord does come in different colors. So if you wanted to use a different color, because you don't want that that dinginess to happen, And it doesn't happen right away. I mean, you know, I'm talking if you wear this bracelet every single day for several years, it takes time, right? But if you don't want that to happen at all, you might want to check out the different colors. All right, so I'm gonna add another section here. So 3 more seed beads on our right-handed needle. Okay, and find our left-handed needle. Take our left-handed needle and we're going to go back through those beads in the opposite direction. Pull. Okay. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 2 more to go, and then we'll add the rest of our Picasso beads, and I will show you how to finish this off. And we will add glue to those knots where we attached our silk to our leather. Don't want to forget that part. It's pretty important. Especially since our silk is kind of slippery. It's always good to add a little extra hypo cement to it, just for some extra insurance that it's not going to come undone. Okay, so there's our 3 seed beads and our needle. And if your needle gets kind of mangled at the end, because these needles are so fine, sometimes they tend to get kind of crinkly on you as you're working. Use your cutter tool. Don't use your scissors by any means, but if you've got a wire cutter, use your cutter tool and just trim off the crinkly end. There's plenty of needle to work with, so you won't miss a little tiny section if you need to trim it off. It just kind of happens as you're working with it. All right, so 1 more little row of seed beads, but first we got to do our around and out. Okay, around and out. Okay. Push those back up where they belong. All right, we're going to pick up 3 more seed beads. Okay. And our needle on the left-handed side is going to go through those in the opposite direction. And pull. So there was a question, why do odd numbers of rows? You don't have to do odd numbers of rows. I am just one of those people where I feel like if I do an odd number of rows, then I definitely have a center, right? And that logic, I find that some people agree with that logic and some people don't agree with that logic. So that's really kind of what my reasoning is. It just means that I've got one of these rows is the actual center of the bracelet instead of, you know, it being an open area, which is funny because in retrospect, when you look back at a finished piece, does it really matter? Not really. When you've got a section like this that's seed beads, or if it's a whole row of, you know, gemstone beads, it really doesn't make any difference. It's just kind of how my brain works. So if you are an even number kind of person, then you don't have to do odd. You don't have to at all. That's a great question though, because I feel like some people are afraid to ask that question. Like, why is it an odd number? You're definitely not the first person to ever wonder. All right, so now I'm ready to finish out with my bigger beads. So we just need 5 of the bigger beads, and then we will finish up our bracelet with 3 more little seed beads and I'll show you how to end. Okay. So our big bead on one thread, our other thread's going to go through the opposite direction. I saw a question that went by, could you do this with wildfire? And the answer is yes, you absolutely can do this with wildfire. You're not limited to what the materials are for this project. Not only that, but you don't even have to use leather on the outside edges. You can use whatever kind of, thicker stringing material you want to for the outside edge. It doesn't have to be leather or faux leather. You can use, thick nylon cord if you want to, or you can use cotton cord. It's really up to you. You can really change up the entire look of this piece just by making the adjustments in the kinds of materials. The technique is going to be the same, but the materials will definitely give it a different look for sure. You can even use like the faux suede lace on the outside, which is more kind of like it's like square, it has two flat sides to it. And it looks cool. So it definitely, it changes the look of a piece to change up your materials, but you're not limited to just what I'm using. If you don't have a tying station, you can use a clipboard, but probably the one thing that I recommend more than anything is blue painter's tape. Just because it doesn't leave a sticky coating on your materials, and it also won't leave a sticky coating on your work surface. And I would just, stick it down with some painter's tape at the top and at the bottom, and you should be good to go. I have painter's tape for a lot of things that I do in jewelry making. It's funny that we use painter's tape, but it's the best because it doesn't leave that nasty sticky coat behind when you go to remove it. Okay, I'm going to add another of our Jasper beads. So there's one on the right. One on the left now. Pull out all of the slack and it'll pop that bead right into place. Okay, we're going to do around and up through. Around and up through. So I saw another question about the tying station and what the holes are on the acrylic plates. Don't let me forget, at the end, we'll address those little holes there. Let's get our bracelet. I don't want to get sidetracked, so let's, but that's a good question. People ask that a lot. So I will point and tell you just a minute. So we're almost done here. Okay. All right, we've got one more of these to add. So around and up through with our cord. Around and up through with our cord. Okay. And we're going to add our last Jasper bead, and then we only need 3 more of the seed beads and we will be ready to finish this off. So there's this one onto the right-handed needle, and my left-handed needle is going to go opposite direction through the same bead. Okay, and pull. Whoops. I have managed to make another knot in my cord. That needle wants to misbehave. Uh-oh, what have I done? Oh gosh, it looks like I pierced my cord on one side with the needle of the other cord. So let's try to fix that. So that's not a good thing. Do you see what's happened? So the little loop on my needle here, where it was attached to one of the silk cord ends, it looks like I just got lucky enough just to pass my needle through that. So let me try to unthread my bead here and start back over again. I think that'll help. Or we may just have a big mess here. It's interesting. Interesting situation here. All right. I have no idea how that even happened, but we will fix it. Or maybe we won't fix it. All right, let's see here. Hold the bead in place and reverse everything. There we go. Now we've got it worked out. It's frustrating with so much cord, but you know, that's just kind of the name of the game. So there's our bead on our right-handed cord. Just need to work out the knot on the left and we'll be ready to finish this off. So oddly, it's the same cord. It's the same cord that got looped through itself. So, all right, now we're ready. Okay, thank you for your patience, everybody. Sorry about that. It's good to see though, because you may run into the same issue. Just, you know, just take it slow and unthread where you can. It's definitely not the end of the world. It's just frustrating when there's so much cord here. All right, so there, we've got it taken care of. Okay. All right, so around and out, no problems, right? No problems, happens to everybody. Okay, same on the left. Now we're going to taper this back down. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 seed beads. Okay, so 1, 2 on the right-handed needle. Okay, and find that left-handed needle. It's the one that was giving me so much trouble. Go through those seed beads in the opposite direction with your left-handed cord and pull. Okay. Okay, around and out. And around and out. Okay, and now we're going to taper down even more. So this time we're going to just do a single seed bead. And that's going to bring that kind of triangle shape back down so that both ends match. So 1 seed bead on the right, take your left through there as well and pull. All right, so we're done with the beads. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do that same, you can see now that I pull it down, we're pulling it into that nice little tighter triangle that we had. Okay, we are going to, I'm going to tighten up my leather here just a little bit. It's wanting to wiggle free. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to take our cord around and up through the center on the right. We're going to do the same thing on the left. Okay, And if you'll remember, we did an overhanded knot with our 2 cords when we very first got started. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to take these 2 cords, tie an overhanded knot, pull that knot down, tighten up my leather here. It's wanting to be silly. Okay, then another overhanded knot. Okay, now one more time, around and out. And around and out. And now we're going to do 2 more knots, and then we're going to take this off of the tying station. Well, actually, we're going to do some gluing first, but then we're going to take this off of the tying station and add our button, and our bracelet will be finished, you guys. Okay, so another overhanded knot with the 2 cords. Okay, one more. And at this point, if you want to trim your cord just to make it a little shorter and easier to manage, you definitely can do that. Okay, pull that down. Okay, so now we're going to get our Hypo cement. Okay, and we're just going to use the very tiniest amount of this. And that's why I like the Hypo cement so much, because it has that little tiny precision tip. That's exactly what we need, because we don't need big globs of glue here. Okay, so back up here where our very first knots were, you just want a little drop of Hypo cement on those knots. Okay, that bigger surgeon's knot that we tied at the beginning, you might want to add a little more than just a drop to it. I kind of coat the entire knot all the way around. This is going to take about 24 hours to dry completely. However, it's wearable in about 12 hours. As far as your knots are concerned, you're going to be able to trim these off in just a matter of moments when it gets to the tacky stage. Once it's tacky, you're safe to cut off your ends. You know, you want to trim them as close to your knot as possible. Okay, so we've added our Hypo cement to those, and now we are going to take this off of the tying station. So I'm just going to loosen up and pull my leather free on the bottom. And up here on the top, I do have to take it all the way off to get it off. Okay, so slip that off of there, and then you can just sit your tying station to the side. Okay, and we can go ahead and come in with your scissors, your cutter, and trim off those extra ends. Okay, that's going to be the back. So when you look at it from the front, you don't even see those knots, right? Same thing down here on the bottom. I kind of want to give this one a little bit more time to get tacky, so we're going to add our button first before we trim those off. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our 2 ends of our leather, and we're going to tie an overhanded knot, and we want to pull that knot right down next to the knot in our silk, right next to our beads. Okay, and tighten that down. Okay, now we want to add our button. So our button will not accommodate both strands of our leather. So we're just going to thread it onto one of the strands of leather. Just take the leather cord and go through the shank on the back of the button. If you find that your cord end is a little too thick, cut it at an angle. That will definitely help. Take it through, pull it down. You want to pull it down right up next to the knot that you just made, okay? And then we're going to tie another overhanded knot. And pull that knot down as close to the shank as you can get it. Okay. Now we're ready to trim. So I'm going to trim. I like to leave these little extra pieces hanging, but if you don't like the extra little fringe here, you can trim that off. If you're going to trim that off right next to the knot, I do recommend adding some more of the Hypo cement to your leather in that knot. Otherwise, you are ready to go. We're going to come in with our cutter tool and trim off the last little ends of our silk cord. And we are done. Our bracelet is complete. So we've got a mixture of our seed beads and our gemstone beads. And it makes a really nice kind of summertime boho bracelet, if you will, right? And you can, like I said before, you can make a pattern here in the center if you want to. You don't have to just do plain beads in the center. You can really kind of play around with this and come up with your own designs, but the technique is going to be the same. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed that. Got both of our bracelets here. A lot of fun, and they're lightweight. Really, the only weight that there is with these is the weight of the beads. So really, when you're shopping for your beads, just keep that part in mind. If you want it to be super lightweight, you might want to use a little lighter bead than a gemstone, because they do have a little bit of heft to them, but even still, it's a nice lightweight bracelet. All right, I'm going to turn you guys around so that we can say our goodbyes. I appreciate you guys joining me today for this class. I hope that you have enjoyed it. And of course, if you have any questions about today's project, feel free to reach out and ask. I'm just a message away. Here's our bracelet from a different angle, so you can kind of see what it looks like, different direction, and what it looks like. Whoops. Always helps to see something that's not on the mat, so you can really kind of see what it looks like in a living situation, if you will. So there you go. All right, guys, thank you again so much for joining me for this class. I hope you have enjoyed it. I look forward to seeing you guys again. I've got another fun class coming up in just a few days. So if you have enjoyed today's project, you're definitely going to enjoy the next one. Don't forget to check out all of the other amazing classes and instructors that Michaels has going on. They're all free, and you are welcome to join all of them. So we appreciate it, you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye, guys.
Sarah, thanks everyone. Bye.